Recently, I made a post on Instagram advertising my first ever solo live show, and the comments on it annoyed me. Social media is extremely good at making you feel annoyed and unresolved because this incentivizes you to then engage more, use the app, comment. It makes you feel discomfort that you need to resolve, and you think you can resolve it by using the app more. But the more you use the app, the more you steep yourself into misunderstanding, and so you just keep crawling back to it. It's slot machine logic. Say it with me. Slot machine logic, because the more addicted you are, the more you use the app, the more the integrated advertising sells for and the more money they make. This is why I've written multiple essays about why you should delete your social media. And normally I have my Instagram deactivated, so it's completely my fault that I am annoyed by Instagram comments because I shouldn't have been posting in the first place. I violated my own principles to post about my show because I was proud of the poster, my Instagram happened to be activated at that time, and I was nervous that my mailing list wouldn't reach the people in Toronto that maybe would want to go to the show. It's my fault. Yet, I still want to unpack my annoyance, not to have a conversation with Instagram comments because I don't care about doing that, but because my annoyance itself, I think, is a kind of interesting object, and it led me to think about interesting things. So here's what happened from my perspective. I announced that I'm doing an in-person show in Toronto, and then everyone comments asking me to make it not in person and not in Toronto. This is understandable because I'm speaking to a global audience, most of which, of course, is not in Toronto. And the barrier of entry to the comment section is nothing. And no one has anything to comment unless they're going to the show, except for, God, I wish that were me. I wish it was something else so I could participate. But just because something makes sense and you can see how it happened doesn't make it not annoying. I announced something, and instead of people reacting to the announcement for what it is, they all begged me to live stream it or record it. Of course, to which the answer is no. A live stream or a recording of a live show is not what I offered. No, my opinion is that the show will not work the same if you watch it on your phone with your hand in your pants. Part of the theme of the show even is like embodied experiences and humbling yourself and not getting everything you want, which you would know if you saw the show, which you won't because you don't live in Toronto. But just this little interaction on its own is not interesting enough to talk about. At least I don't feel. However, there was one comment that I think was interesting enough to talk about, and that's what we're going to be doing here. Now, anything I say about this comment or the person that made it is not really about the person. I see this as this tiny, bizarre, digital sliver of this person's existence that they never expected to be elevated to this level of scrutiny. So it was really, there's nothing to do with the human being with the beating heart that created the text. I want to look at the text as if it's dialogue by a character in an interesting play. If the person that penned it is watching this, and I'm sure they are, I'm sorry that this will feel very intense for you, but I promise you, you're safe. You can trust me, and this has nothing to do with you in a way. Let's read this thumb-typed iconoclastic critique of me together. I love that you and your YouTube community are having fun and making friends and being happy, XOXO, but you guys are my favorite artists, and I feel like y'all are ignoring the audience that loves your work. Please don't forget that we're real human beings too, even though we don't live in a 10-mile radius from your creator studio. If I sound entitled to you feeding yourself into the machine, it's because I am. 19 likes, the people's champion. When I first read this comment, it made me very activated. I felt very hostile. But upon stewing on it a while, I really admire it. It wants to be vulnerable and it wants to be kind. If you look at the arc of it, it's a lot like healthy communication in an interpersonal conflict. Like, I'm happy, you're happy, but I feel like this, and that might be unfair of me to feel, but it doesn't change that I feel that way. Sincerely communicated, many redemptive qualities, which is perhaps the reason that I desire to sincerely respond to it. Let's unpack this in excruciating detail. Part 1, my personal life in Toronto, Ontario. I love that you and your YouTube community are having fun and making friends and being happy, XOXO. This is the author's attempt to appease me and make me feel understood before they deliver their critique in earnest, but it doesn't have the desired effect of ingratiating me because it mistakenly presumes that it knows anything about my personal life, which you do not. The YouTube creator studio that they are referring to does exist. It's called the Canadian Cybernetic Culture Research Unit, and it's not mine, it's Dreg's, and I'm not a member of it. I was asked to be a member, and I said no, because I like working alone, and I already have friends. I did Dreg and Art Chad's Horseshoe Theory podcast because they invited me to, and I said yes. I gave a guest presentation at the CCCRU, available on my Patreon. Look at that, a recorded lecture for money. Just what you wanted. And I did one live show collaboration with Dreg, and that was just with Dreg. It was nothing to do with the studio. It was just me and him doing a business venture together. The studio exists in my city. I know them, I've been there, but I don't go there regularly at all. Instead, I'm busy with a rich personal life that you know nothing about because I share none of it with you precisely so that you cannot reference it in the overfamiliar fashion that you just attempted to. Not only are you not my friend, the people you think are my friends are also not my friends. I'm not even in the Discord because I don't like being in group chats, and I don't understand the words they say. They call me an an prim off-left anti Yap-mogging. I don't know what that means. They always tell me I'm yap-mogging them. I don't know what that means. This is why I can't listen to like the Red Scare podcast, because they say words and I don't know what they mean. Why don't you people talk like normal people?
And you're like transmaxing too, right?
Yeah.
That's where you identify as like a capital M man.
Capital N, capital he, him pronouns.
Right.
He, him. Yeah.
The CCCRU has nothing to do with why I do or do not do things that you want me to do. Do not credit them for any of my action or inaction. I want all the smoke. I'm so sensitive. So that was just me overreacting to a misguided attempt at being nice. But why are they being nice? What is the coming critique that this was meant to soften? I want to pronounce the T in soften from now on. Soften the blow. This tickles me. That's 90% of why I talk the way I do, I think. It's because I get bored while I'm saying normal sentences and I gotta spice them up. Okay, the next piece of information offered here is a little flummoxing and vague to me, but you guys are my favorite artists. Really? Really? Who specifically are you talking about? I don't believe you. Are your favorite artists really like me, Dreg, Duncan Clark, the iceberg video guy, and like Gokunaru? Because I feel like we don't have anything in common. I suspect you're mostly saying this just to appeal to the communal spirit that I supposedly feel for my YouTube community that I don't feel in actuality. So it's a bit of a moot point. But you guys are my favorite artists, and I feel like y'all are ignoring the audience that loves your work. Please don't forget us. We're real human beings too, even though we don't live in a 10-mile radius from your creator studio. Okay, so the problem is that me and my community of artists are so intrinsically satisfied at present with our local scene that we're now ignoring our passionate global audience. First things first, I am so genuinely happy that we have made Toronto a place that you wish you were to the point that you're upset. It is a major goal of mine to contribute culturally to my city. Toronto is my home. I love it here. I love the idea that other people are jealous of Torontonians right now. That's so exciting to me. I hope to continue engendering this feeling in your breast. I hope to tour the world, but I will always privilege Toronto in a special way and invest in my city. I do not intend to brain leak to New York City as soon as I have enough money. The reason that I'm doing my first solo show in Toronto isn't because I'm busy hanging out with my YouTube community or because I'm ignoring you. It's because I live here and it's my first show. So I'm trying it nearest to me. And then after that, if it goes well, I'm gonna try to take the show to Ottawa and Montreal and maybe Kingston and then Vancouver. Again, not because I'm ignoring you, but because I don't have a work visa for the United States of America. So I'm aware that you're a human being, even though you don't live near the studio that I don't spend much time in. It's just that you living in a different place than where I live is not my fault. It's not really a problem that I have to solve. It's not really like an action I've taken against you. It's just that I live here. And so it just isn't about you at all. But now I want to dial into that ignoring the audience bit because this concept fascinates me. Part 2, ignoring the audience. I feel like y'all are ignoring the audience that loves your work. Trump has been shot. Biden dropped out. CJ the X is ignoring their audience. This is not news. I've always ignored my audience. This is like my entire thing. A healthy dose of benevolent dictator, authoritarian subjugation of the people for the people's sake is exactly what I've always transparently offered. I'm in my Doja Cat era permanently. I want to hear you say, I do love you guys. I don't though, because I don't even know y'all. And we don't know you, but we have supported you through thick and thin. Mind you, you'd be nothing without us. You'd be working at a grocery store making songs on fucking GarageBand, Miss High School Dropout. Nobody forced you. I don't know why you're talking to me like you're my mother. Bitch, you sound like a crazy person. Let's talk about the performer-audience relationship. You know I have thoughts on this. This is a long time coming. As far as I can see it, there are two sides to this. There's the artistic side, and then there's the economic side. And I'm an artist before I am a business person, so we'll start with the art side. An artist is supposed to be above the audience. You do not like me because I do the things that you want me to do. You don't think I'm a good artist because I satisfy your oh-so-ingenious requests. Our relationship, insofar as it even exists, is not predicated on me caring what you think or feel. If you like my work, you like it precisely because I do things that you don't know to ask for and you could never think of. You don't know what you want. I know what you want for you. I don't care what you care about. I tell you what to care about. I don't satisfy your needs. I invent your needs. You didn't even know to beg for this live stream until I invented the fucking show. Sorry to go demon mode. That's definitely in me, but let's taper it and like be a little more empathetic by investigating some literature on the subject. One of my favorite philosophical essays on performer-audience relationship is Trust and Sincerity in Art by C.T. Nguyen. Unlike some of the philosophy I reference sometimes, I would actually recommend that you go read this because, like I said, it's a modern thing. It's only 20 pages, and Nguyen writes in extremely humorous and approachable tones, citing tons of modern case studies like Kanye West or whatever, and he never compromises his philosophical sophistication to do so. It's just really well written. The paper is on the subject of audiences trusting artists and having their trust in artists broken. So the first distinction that Nguyen draws here is between trust and mere reliance, for which he cites Catherine Hawley's paper on the subject. You can rely on something without imbuing it with the emotional baggage of trust. Like, I'm sitting on this thing, and I'm relying on it to hold me up, but I don't know if I trust it to hold me up the way that I would trust my partner not to betray me. Because like, if it broke and I fell, I would be surprised and I would be frustrated, but I wouldn't feel like the seat betrayed me. Hawley argues that that's me relying on this seat, but not trusting it the way that we trust human beings. Trust includes reliance, but also adds something else. Hawley suggests that trust includes that you believe someone has a personal moral commitment to do the thing that you do or do not rely on them to do. The commitment account neatly explains the difference between trust, distrust, and non-trust. When I trust somebody, I take them to have made a commitment and I rely on it. When I distrust somebody, I take them to have made a commitment, yet expect them to fail to meet that commitment. And when I have an attitude of non-trust, I do not believe they have made a commitment at all. I trust my partner to care for me. I distrust this scumbag politician's promises, but my attitude towards my next-door neighbor's cooking is neither active trust nor active distrust. It is non-trust. It's not the case that I trust them to bring me food, but it's not the case that I distrust them either. Our relationship has not yet entered into the domain of trust and distrust. This is very interesting because it brings into sharp relief the moral component of fans being mad at an artist. When this comment says that I'm ignoring the audience that loves my work, it implies that I have a commitment to that audience. You can see it in it. That I'm ignoring, like, that loves, like, these are relational terms. So it's implying we have a personal relationship that they trust me inside of, and that I am failing to meet that commitment and breaking the trust, betraying them somehow. Is this true? No. But maybe. I certainly never consciously or explicitly with my tongue committed to anything. But Hawley actually employs a rather loose concept of commitment. One of the ways that we might implicitly enter into a trust relationship with each other, for example, is by adopting certain social rules that imply commitments. When I get into an Uber, I am trusting that the Uber driver is going to take me to the location I've specified in the app and not the middle of the desert. If he doesn't do this thing that he didn't, say with his mouth that he was going to do, I will feel like betrayed. This is because he's occupying the social role of Uber driver, which comes with commitments. And this might explain how I've betrayed my non-Torontonian audience if we unpack and render explicit the implied commitments in the social role of performer. Nguyen offers 3 different kinds of trust that audiences often have in their performers. Trust in aesthetic competence, trust in aesthetic sincerity, and trust in aesthetic steadfastness. Aesthetic competence refers to your trust in that I will be good at what I do. Trust in aesthetic competence is broken by aesthetic failure. I don't think I've broken that at all because you're still clamoring to get content from me. There's no indication I've fallen off or now lack the sauce. The heartbreak is actually that the sauce is being denied to you on the basis of your geography. If I had such trust for somebody, I would feel betrayed when they made bad music or recommended bad movies. Aesthetic sincerity refers to your trust that I am doing things artistically that I actually believe in. Trust and sincerity is broken by the aesthetic sellout, not the aesthetic failure. This one is different because I can theoretically break your trust in my aesthetic competence without breaking your trust in my aesthetic sincerity, because I could put my whole pussy into something and it could suck ass. I can make some art that you think is bad, but you might still believe that I'm doing my best. It'd just be sad. If a musician makes a bold experiment guided by their own aesthetic sensibility and fails utterly, if they follow their artistic muse off a cliff, this would be a failure of aesthetic competence, but not of aesthetic sincerity. Finally, there was aesthetic steadfastness, and spoiler alert, this is where I betrayed you. Finally, trust in aesthetic steadfastness is trust in somebody to stay the course. Aesthetic steadfastness refers to your trust that I will continue being the thing that you love. You love my YouTube videos, and you trust me to continue to make YouTube videos that you love. You trust them to still be funny and insightful and chaotic. You trust me to still talk about art and God and philosophy. You trust me to serve a global audience online instead of ignore them and start focusing on just my local vicinity. A member of a traditional folk music scene might have such trust for their fellows to continue making and caring about music in that style. I can break your trust in my aesthetic steadfastness without without breaking your trust in my aesthetic sincerity or competence, and that's exactly what's happened here. It appears that I've followed my passions and intuitions away from YouTube videos towards live shows in my city, and you know it's going to be good, and you're seeing me refuse to make it widely available immediately, and you're feeling like I'm violating your trust in my steadfastness towards the oh-so-real human beings that live in different cities than this. I used to serve them, but I'm ignoring them now. Part 3, open source is not about you. If you're like me and you know things about things that you do know about, but you don't know things about things that you don't know about, open source software is when a programmer makes their code public for anyone to use for free. So you build your code, which I'm told is a string of numbers and letters, and it does something in a computer, and instead of just releasing the tool that accomplishes the task, you also relieve the instruction manual of how the tool works. You give all your secrets away. No proprietary nothing. So anyone that likes your tool and wants to use your tool in their project doesn't have to pay you. They can just copy paste your code and just shove it in their project, and they can mess with it or they can leave it as it is, and they don't have to credit you or pay you royalties. They just continue on their merry way. A ton of the code that runs our increasingly digital society is peppered with these blocks of open source text. It's kind of a really exciting utopian phenomenon. People just building things for free and sharing with each other how they built it, not trying to monetize it or keep their secrets, but just collaborate and be as transparent as possible for the good of humanity, just out of passion and curiosity. And one of the powers that we can tap into in this era of digital democratic revolution is public participation. If I write this code and build this tool, and then I open source the software, now anyone can improve upon it. Although an individual or a local team might collaborate on initially creating a code, once they open source it, the entire world can work together to elevate it beyond what any individual or local team could produce. Supposedly. In Nadia Asparahova's book, Working in Public, The Making and Maintenance of Open Source Software, she kind of spoils this utopian vision. In reality, the founder of an open source project and about 5% of contributors actually do 95% of the work, and most of the contributions from the community actually make the lives of those particular belabored unpaid people a lot harder rather than any easier. The vast majority of edit suggestions to open source code are completely unusable because the barrier of entry is non-existent. There's no guarantee of anybody's seriousness or expertise. And the only way to tell the quality contributions from all the garbage is for someone to go through and review, test, and approve or reject the edit contributions. And who's doing that? Remember, this is all volunteer work. Who's got to go through all of the noise to find those scraps of signal? And this is not to mention all of the support requests, all of the complaints from people whose code hasn't been merged or even checked yet, people whose code was rejected that demand an explanation as to why their contribution was not valued by this community. Think about it. You're just a guy with a 9-to-5 that codes as a hobby, and you create a cool tool, and then you open source it to the community because you're a generous-hearted person, and then your tool becomes very popular, and very quickly you have suddenly become the unpaid CEO of an entire business that serves entitled brats that think they own the business. And you can't just quit, one, because it's your passion project, but also because the stakes aren't exactly low. Remember, open source is used all over the place. Your government uses open source in its technology. Hospitals use open source in their software development. Your accursed amulet uses open source software. If you merge some faulty code that breaks your functionality, unexpected things will stop working and people are going to talk to you about it. People are going to talk to you about everything. A lot. They're going to be talking to you about whether the code that you just merged was stupid or great. They're going to be talking to you about what direction you should be taking the project. They're going to be talking to you about who you should be listening to and who you shouldn't be listening to. They're going to be talking to you about that one contributor who did something problematic in a chat room that you want to ban from contributing to your code anymore. And you're managing all this for free. Why? And the worst part is they're demanding this time and energy and commitment from you, not as a favor, as they see it. They're asking the creator to fulfill their commitments to the community, to the rest of the creators. This isn't just yours, it's open source. We made it together. This familiar parasocial pattern of intense one-way expectations and personal attacks and critiques and entitlements eventually led the developer Rich Hickey to write his essay, Open Source is Not About You. As a user of something open source, you are not thereby entitled to anything at all. You are not entitled to contribute. You are not entitled to features. You are not entitled to the attention of others. You are not entitled to having value attached to your complaints. You are not entitled to this explanation. Open source is a no-strings-attached gift, and all participants should recognize it as such. If you disagree or imagine otherwise, that's too bad. It's my life, and I'm not going to spend it arguing or negotiating on or with the internet. If you have expectations of others that aren't being met, those expectations are your own responsibility. You are responsible for your own needs. If you want things, make them. Unfortunately, just because you watched a YouTube video of mine one time and you liked it, does not then mean I need to do anything further. Just because I was releasing YouTube videos and then I stopped for a while, doesn't mean that I was paying attention to you and now I'm ignoring you. You just saw something you liked. If you then went to donate money to me, even that doesn't buy you anything. No promises, no thank you card, no new videos in any particular time frame. I did not promise anything in exchange for the money that you have given me voluntarily. I might die tomorrow or I might quit YouTube because I feel like it. My live shows might get so popular that I select that as my new preferred medium and I stop making these videos. And if that occurs, you can unsub from my Patreon and I don't have to refund you. I never said on Patreon that if you donate money, then you are owed things. I don't allow people to vote on things. I try not to tell you that you somehow created this. I was making YouTube videos before I had Patreon backing, and there's some YouTube videos that I will make. I think I would continue to make YouTube videos even if I lost all my Patreon backing. There's something I like about the medium. I get something out of it. I like doing it, and it works best when I don't think about who I'm making it for, because that's a favor I do to the audience. I just make the things out of the passion of my heart, instead of hopping into the audience and acting like president of my own fucking fan club. I'm trying to make actual things for myself, and I hope that you like that I make them for myself, and if you don't, you can always take your attention and your money elsewhere, because, this isn't for you. And that is for you. It's for you that it's not for you. You know what I mean? And then, on top of that, I can also say to you that my intention is that actually I'm not going to vanish. I actually am going to make more YouTube videos. I am working, and one day I'll get a work visa for the United States of America and I'll go to Brazil so you don't kill yourself. And really, if we're being honest, you know that. I know that. We both know the only reason we're talking about this is because I didn't post for a year and a half. Part 4, why I didn't post for a year and a half. I'm not counting the Folgers video because I don't know what, I blacked out the whole time I made that. I did not post for a year because I made the foolish mistake of trying to take my job seriously, which caused me to stop enjoying it and then forget how to do it. This happened in phases. First, I read so many books I gave myself brain damage. Then I started working on one very long project and I set very high standards for myself intellectually. I thought this is going to be an actual philosophical piece of rigor, and I'm going to treat it like it's art. I'm going to take this job seriously because I'm grateful that this job has given me so much. I should treat it like a real thing and make it as good as I possibly can. And I'm still not done it. And I'm accepting that it might not be done for even longer, in fact, an unacceptably long amount of time, given that this is actually my job. And I also want to enjoy this again. I want to get back to making YouTube videos unseriously. I don't regret that year of work at all. It's been formative for me. That research has enriched me, it's reshaped me and refined me. I am sharper intellectually. I've built a lot of things that I am proud of. I got better at a lot of things that are not YouTube videos. I rendered myself more valuable and real as a speaker and writer and thinker, and I am proud of that. UT, the whole reason that YouTube and me were a match made in heaven was because I don't respect the medium. I don't care that much about YouTube, which enabled me to create videos with a particular electric boredom. And this was the moment that I found a way to compromise between the world and myself. So I could take as long as I want on my art, the things that I take more seriously. And then in the meantime, I'll make YouTube videos, which are just YouTube videos. I don't give a shit about it. So I'll do shit that you like more. and this gave me a place in society. So going forward, I will continue to make video essays like you have come to expect of me. A video essay about a piece of media or something. And I will continue to work on this large project and the other large projects that I started in the year that I was gone, that I'm taking so seriously and caring about. A and D. I'm also gonna do things like this, where I try to care less and tap into that electric boredom once more and do my fucking job. steadfastly feeding myself into the machine for your valid entitled ass. In the meantime, go subscribe to my mailing list on cjthex.com/newsletter because I'm going to deactivate Instagram again. And on Patreon, I'm making another commitment. I'm not going to keep doing my sporadic posting without any sorts of promises. I'm going to be doing Patreon monthlies so that every single Wednesday you get more content and every month you get at least 4 things, and that's going to be what happens forevermore in addition to my sporadic posting of everything that I want to post. First Wednesday, there's going to be a Conversations With episode where I talk to creators and experts. Second Wednesday is going to be a Social No Para episode where I talk to patrons that submit pitches. Third Wednesday is going to be the discussion thread for the album of the month, and then fourth Wednesday is going to be the discussion thread for the movie of the month, and then on the last day of the month, I'm going to do the Patreon Zoom call town hall Q&A thing. And we're still running book club threads on Fridays, and I'm doing the live lectures, and I will finish the fucking Jordan Peterson video. Eventually, when it's ready. So just stay in your seat like a good little girl, and I'll give you what you want. Thank you for everything. Goodbye.
I think I'm an addict, want the world and I'ma have it. I'm so fucking dramatic, got all my bones up in the attic, and I dance them all around like a marionette.